What if I told you that the way most people are using powerful AI is, well, it's fundamentally inefficient? Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really powerful technique called prompt orchestration. Seriously, it's a strategy that can slash your AI costs, speed up your workflows like you wouldn't believe, and actually deliver better results. All right, let's get into it. So let's just cut right to the chase here. Look at this. On the left, a single powerful AI model. That's going to cost you 15 cents to get a task done. But on the right, by using an orchestrated team of models, that same task costs just 6 cents. We're talking about getting the same or even a better result for less than half the price. The real question is, how on earth is that possible? Well, that's exactly what we're here to break down. It's really tempting to just use one big, powerful, do-it-all AI for every single task. I get it. It feels simple, right? But that simplicity, it's really deceptive. And it comes with some pretty serious hidden costs. So this single model approach has some major flaws. First off, it is expensive, sometimes 10 or 20 times more. Second, it's slow. The most powerful models, they often have higher latency. Third, it is just total overkill for so many things, kind of like using a sledgehammer to crack a nut for simple stuff like formatting text. And finally, it's risky. I mean, if your one and only model provider has an outage, your entire system just goes down. So what's the solution then? Well, you stop thinking about having one AI generalist that does everything, and you start thinking more like a manager who's building a specialized team, an AI team of specialists. And that right there brings us to the core idea of prompt orchestration. Instead of one model doing everything, you strategically route different parts of a task through a whole sequence of different AI models. It really is all about using the right tool for the right job and leveraging each model's unique strengths to get the absolute best result possible. So what does this team of AI specialists actually look like in practice? Well, think of it like this. For simple data extraction, a fast, cheap model like GPT 3.5 Turbo is absolutely perfect. For really deep analysis of long documents, something like Claude 3.5 Sonnet is a total powerhouse. When you need to generate complex, high-quality code, yeah, GPT-4 is still the industry leader there. And for something super simple like formatting, a lightning-fast model like Gemini Flash is all you'll ever need. All right, so the theory makes a lot of sense. But what does this actually look like in the real world? Let's take a look at the proof from 3 completely different workflows. And trust me, the results are pretty dramatic. First up, let's talk about a content creation pipeline. The old way is over there on the left, using the expensive, powerful GPT-4 for literally everything from simple research to basic formatting. Now, on the right, you see the orchestrated approach, using a fast model for research, a more analytical one for insights, the powerful one just for the writing, and a cheap, quick one for formatting. And here is the impact of that strategic shift. You see it right there. The cost just plummets from 15 cents per article all the way down to just over 6 cents. That's less than half the price. I mean, think about that for a second. A 57% reduction in cost. But here's the kicker. It's not just about saving money. This orchestrated workflow is also nearly 50% faster. Why? Because you're using quicker models for all the simpler steps. It's a win-win. And we see the exact same pattern in a code development workflow. Using a brilliant but really expensive model like GPT-4 for simple stuff like documenting code or extracting requirements, it's just complete overkill. The orchestrated flow saves it only for the heavy lifting, the actual code generation. And again, the cost difference is just as dramatic. You're strategically deploying your most expensive asset, that powerful model, only where its unique value can really be appreciated. And that simple change translates to an incredible 63% cost reduction, all without sacrificing the quality of the most critical step, the code itself. And for our final example, let's look at data analysis. Using a top-tier model like Claude Opus for simple data extraction and formatting is just incredibly inefficient. The smart approach: use cheap models for the prep work and bring in the analytical powerhouse, in this case Claude Sonnet, just for the core analysis. So what happens when you orchestrate this flow? The cost absolutely collapses. I mean, we're not talking about shaving off a few cents anymore. The cost drops from cents to mere fractions of a cent. And the result? A staggering 92% in cost savings. No, that is not a typo. This is the power you get when you move from a brute force, single model approach to an intelligent, orchestrated strategy. So, you've seen the proof. The potential here is massive. So the next logical question is, okay, how can I actually do this myself? Well, here is a simple 5-step playbook to get you started. It's a surprisingly straightforward process. First, just analyze your workflow and break it down into its core steps. Second, map each of those steps to the most cost-effective model for that specific job. Third, implement the flow. Build the logic to pass the outputs from one model to the next. And by the way, you don't have to build this from scratch. There are frameworks and platforms that exist to make this routing way easier. Fourth, and this is important, add fallbacks for reliability. And finally, monitor everything, cost, speed, and quality, so you can keep tweaking and refining your choices. Okay, so let's bring it all together. What are the key takeaways here, and what does this orchestrated future really mean for how you work with AI? The bottom line is pretty simple. With prompt orchestration, you can slash your costs by anywhere from 30 to over 90%. You can get higher quality results because you're using the best specialist for each task. You can build a much more reliable system with fallbacks, and you can future-proof your work by not being locked into a single AI provider. It's a huge deal. And this really leaves us with a final thought to chew on. After seeing the potential for these massive cost savings, this higher quality, and the increased speed and reliability, is sticking to a single model strategy still a viable approach? Or has it just become obsolete?